me? Or
I asked if I could. I was going to make myself captain, coach and goal kicker, but they wouldn't let me do it. So I've gone at fullback Robbie O'Davis. On the wings, Darren Albert and Adam McDougall. The centres, Tamana Tahu, Matty Gidley. Michael Hagan, 5'8". Joey halfback. I slipped him in just ahead of a few other blokes. Give him a chance.
Sean Rudder.
Yeah. Ben Kennedy lock. Two back rowers, Steve Simpson and Adam Muir. Chief captain up front with Mark Sargent, Danny Badiris at hooker. Bench, Caleb Ponga, Tony Butterfield, Mitchell Pearce, Kurt Gidley, and Bumper and Billy Pete, and coach Malcolm Reilly.
fair side.
Mate, Robbie O'Davis. Now, Robbie O, mate, geez. You know, it's funny how history forgets some players a little bit to a certain extent. And Robbie O, I don't think has ever given the credit probably he deserves. This is the first touch, his first touch in the 97 grand final. It's one of the best first touches you'll ever see. You always see this, Bush, and of course got Clive Churchill medal that day.
Scored 2 tries.
Scored 2 tries. Won a grand final again in 2001. But he remembered this day. He was just, mate, he was on the zone. He was in the zone. He was on fire.
Did he dance in the grand final?
Yeah, you'll see it here.
I wasn't sure if it was the grand final or a semi.
He does the Elvis dance.
The shimmy, yeah.
What about you blokes, Matty, in this game? We talked about how Parramatta choked and they were quite nervous in 2001. You blokes are the massive underdogs in this game. Were you, I mean, you blokes are always, you know, you play the music in the dressing room, you know all that. Were you guys nervous in 97 or?
It's hard to speak on behalf of everyone, but we were really relaxed. We used to get there and let's face it, if you're an underdog in the ground in a big game, it's a luxury.
Yeah.
You know, you can get out there and just sort of go out there and go for it and play your game, and the pressure's always on the favourite, and Manly were red hot favourites. It's funny leading up through the week. Like I remember watching the footy show, and on the footy show, they introduced, there was Chief and one of our players, and the crowd went crazy, and they introduced Terry Hill and Beaver, and they walked out, and mate, the crowd just booed, and I thought, I think they're a little bit rattled. And
I think everyone was on Newcastle.
Yeah, well, sure.
Yeah, it's the underdog.
If you're not a Manly fan, you're on Newcastle.
Well, things have changed a little bit with Manly, but Manly back in the day were the Silvertails, and they were the team that everyone, you know, famously loved to hate and all that sort of stuff. It was quite crazy. I remember arriving back into the city, and there was almost 100,000 people there, and people were going absolutely just going nuts, to the point the bus was sort of edging through the city, and there were people climbing into the old fig trees on the side of the road and jumping on top of the bus and kind of kicked through the bus. The bus got totaled. Got totally wrecked.
Matty, this team here, I mean, it's a cracking team, but did you have thoughts of like the inaugural team, like Sammy Stewart or
mate,
John Schuster?
Johnny Schuster. But, I mean, Tamana and Matty Gibbs, you know, in the centres.
Yeah.
You just got to put them in. The bloke who was the hardest to leave out was Mark Lanville.
Yeah.
Mark Lanville was just a staple of those early sides, and his last ever game for the Knights was 97 grand final. But, you know, you're going through the list here.
Back row.
With some of the back row, like, see, Adam Muir, right? Here's another bloke that gets easily forgotten. The two best players that, you know, apart from Andrew, that I played with, as far as just being on the same level and just helping you, was Adam Muir and Dave Furner. Went on to Wigan. But Hertzie, during this middle 90s, Adam Muir, in my opinion, mate, he was in the argument to be, you know, one of the best back rowers in the world. And he was a multi-dimensional player, Hertzie. He was ridiculously tough. But, mate, you could give him the ball early and he could create something, but he just loved hitting holes and that as well. So those blokes are, you know, and you played with Hertzie at State of Origin.
Yeah, he had that, and you blokes had that where you'd go across the field,
Next
and you brought that in where you cross a player and you could read that pretty easy, but
turn the other one back further.
It's a hard pass to throw.
I think we called it a Hertzie at the Eels. We actually called it a Hertzie.
Yeah, why don't clubs do that now? That's what I'm thinking.
Probably.
So you had to. What the whole idea, Matty, was it? You'd have to bring someone under, and then the last play.
Yeah. So if I was running, you'd get a person just drop. So you drop under me here. So if I was heading towards this and Fletcher drop under, usually these days you go dummy there and another bloke comes from the same direction, drops. But Hertzie would come and would follow my line. So you would drop under and then he'd come from the blind side.
Tighter again.
And you just go and then just turn it back like that. Yeah. And Malcolm really brought that. And it was, for me and Joey, it was no skill of ours because we just did a simple thing. You just go across, it uses no vision. It was just bang. It was just the athleticism of Hertzie. Just hit it all the time. He used to call it in the game. He'd go, next, Johnny. We'd go, no, mate. Not every play, mate. Not every play. The other bloke, just going through the list here. This is Joey on grand final. Of course, Joey famously in the semi-final against Parramatta. Mate, he scored a try, and as he scored the try, Smithy came down, accidentally kneed him in the ribs and broke his ribs. And in the semi-final, Joey got a painkiller before the game against Norths, then went to have another one at half-time, and his lung had expanded, and the needle went through the lung and punctured his lung.
Is that true, or have we?
No, I think he just made it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I told you I had a sore hand grand final, though. Just toughed it out. But the bloke talk as well as Tony Butterfield, like Buttsie's on the bench there. Buttsy was just unbelievably tough, and Buttsy was a real throwback. He was an old. He came through at in the Penrith system with MG and all those blokes. You know, he's a Colleton boy out in the western suburbs there, so really rough and tumble and tough. So Buttsy, even up until he played it to the year 2000. Started with the Knights in '88, played till 2000. And what used to be amazing about Buttsy still treated the scrums like it was a competition.
I was about to say, I played front row one game, and he was headbutting me and rubbing his face. I did not realise that you get a thing called a scrum pox.
Yes,
where it's a true thing. It's like an infection. Yes. Yeah. And he was grabbing. He's going, yeah, get that India, and he was scraping his. It was horrendous.
He was one of the last guys who would trash talk you. Like if you were young coming through, if you were a debutant, he'd be just India the whole time, calling your names, pointing everything under the sun.
And Heidi, you'd hear right, and this is a rugby league show. Let's talk plain here, not sugarcoat it. You'd be standing there sometimes, and I'd be standing at 5'8", and you'd be against young front rowers, and the sound of him headbutting them, fighting for the loose head, like nobody did that.
Yeah, just take it.
And he would just go, and it'd just be boom, and they come out of scrum and just, and they
look at the referee going,
and you go, mate, there's going to be another 20 of those scrums. Other blokes in there, Steve Simpson, great back rower. Really great back.
Bones.
Michael Hagan, too, at 6. Michael Hagan, Knights come into the comp in 88. He came to the competition in 89 after winning the grand final with Canterbury in 88. And, he was, I reckon, the first big signing the Knights ever made. And the difference he made was in 88, the Knights come second last. They beat North Sydney in the last game of the year to avoid the wooden spoon. The following year, they come 7th. So he made a monumental difference. And he coached you at Parramatta. Yep. Great fella, Hagues. And Mark Sargent, of course, he won. He's got to get a start. He made he won the Rothmans medal with Gavin Miller in 1989. And Chief, you just can't leave out Chief. And the thing about Chief, I wrote something down on every player, and one of the things, what I wrote down for Chief is sacrifice. Because only Chief knew what he had, what he went through to get on the fields in the last 3 or 4 years in his career. He had arthritis right through his knees and his back. Ooh. And, mate, he would get to training an hour before anyone else. He'd get a rub down, and then he would walk up and down the Marathon Stadium hill for about half an hour just to get his body right so he can come out and do some ball work with us. And he was just,
I think
great.